Before we dive into our presentation, it is important to establish shared understanding of these key concepts. This definition helps frame our analysis of systemic issues and social structures. The definition of race. Race is not a biological reality, but rather a social construct. While it is often associated with physical characteristics like skin color, it has no genetic basis. Despite this, society assigns meaning to race, influencing individuals' opportunities, treatment, and life experiences. This means that race is shaped by historical, cultural, and political forces rather than biological differences. The definition of racism. Racism is not just about personal prejudice. It is a system of power that advantages some racial group over others. In the North American context, white people hold systemic privilege, while people of color face structural disadvantages. Racism extends beyond individual bias. It is embedded in institutions, policies, and cultural norms, shaping access to opportunities and resources. Understanding this definition is crucial because they highlight how race and racism operate within society. As we move forward, we will analyze how these concepts apply to systemic discrimination, particularly within the federal public service. Now we will begin our group presentation. Thank you.
Hi everyone, we are Group 8 and today we are presenting the Black Class Actions lawsuit and its fight against systemic racism in Canada's Federal Public Service. I am Ritesh Suri and my teammates Edward Tam and Karan Brown will also speak. We will explain the background of this lawsuit and the key allegations, the government response, and the concept of systematic racism and white privilege. Let's start with an introduction. The Black Class Action lawsuit is a significant case where black federal employees are suing the Canadian government for workplace discrimination. This law was built to expose unfair hiring and promotion practices that have affected black public servants since 1970. The case is led by the Black Class Action Secretariat, a group fight for justice. On October 28, 2024, the federal court began a hearing to decide whether this lawsuit can officially represent a large group of employees. By November 21st, 2024, the Public Servant Alliance of Canada, a major union, publicly supported the lawsuit. This case has sparked national conversations about racism in government workplace, showing why change is needed. Now we move to the next slide, which is historical background. So, to understand the lawsuit, we have to look at history. For decades, the Black Canadians have been excluded for leadership positions in the federal public service. Even after policies like the Employment Equality Act in 1986 were introduced, black workers still faced promotion values Many reports have shown that Black employees are often overlooked for leadership roles, even when they meet or exceed qualifications. They also face racial bias in hiring, job assignments, and career development. And now we move to next slide. And there are some key moments. Uh, the Black class action lawsuit was filed because past attempts to fix these problems failed. The goal is to bring legal accountability and ensure fair treatment in government jobs. Key allegations. Now let's look at the key allegations in the lawsuit. Black employees have reported being passed over for promotions. Less experienced, often white employees get promotion instead. Hostile work environment. Some black workers faced microaggression, unfair discipline, or workplace bullying. Lack of mentorship. Many black employees lack guidance or career support, making advancing harder. Need for systemic reform. They ask for diversity program and fundamental policy changes that prevent discrimination. For many years, these issues have been ignored, which is why legal action was necessary. We'll move to next slide. To show the problem, let's look at the numbers. A 2021 study found that black employees comprise about 3.2% of federal workforce. However, that number drops to less than 1% in senior leadership role. Why is that happen? Uh, because black employees faced hidden barriers in promotions. They often don't get the same mentorship, training, or network opportunities as their white colleagues. The lack of black leadership in government reinforces workplace inequality. Without representation, it's harder to push for fair hiring and promotion policies. Now I will pass it over to Edmund to discuss how the government has response. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Edmund. I'm going to continue the second part of our presentation. Government response. The Canadian government has responded in several ways. They have introduced bias training for hiring manager, diversity hiring target to increase representation, mentorship program to support Black employees. But these responses don't fully address the root problem. Training and hiring targets are good, but they don't change the deeply embedded biases in workplace culture. Black employees are still facing discrimination daily. This is why the lawsuit argues that we need stronger legal protections and policies to ensure fairness in hiring and promotions. You can see the summary of the government responses in this screen. Let's move on to the next screen. Government response versus lawsuit demands. There are four different categories here. Let's compare what the government is doing versus what lawsuit demands. The government focuses on training and diversity policies. The lawsuit wants legally enforced anti-racism policies and an independent oversight body. For example, instead of just saying we will promote more diversity, the lawsuit demands clear promotion criteria so Black employees are judged fairly. This is a fight for real policy changes, not just promises. In this course, we learn about systemic racism. This lawsuit highlights the concept of systemic racism. Systemic racism isn't about individual racist people, it is about policies and structure that create unfair disadvantages for Black employees. For example, biased hiring practices. Black candidates are less likely to be interviewed. Limited network access. White employees often get promotion through internal referrals. Unequal evaluation. Black employees receive harsher performance reviews, limiting their career growth. These hidden barriers keep Black employees from advancing even when fully qualified. And in this screen, you can see the racial disparities in hiring federal public service. You can see people of color are the people of color. It's 15%. In dangerous is 5%, and Black is 10%, and the majority, 70%, are white. In this course, we learn about white supremacy and privilege. White supremacy isn't just about hate groups. It is a system where white employees get unearned advantages. For example, white privilege can mean easier access to mentorship and leadership roles, more trust from supervisors leading to better evaluations, being seen as a good fit in the workplace culture. The lawsuit challenges these advantages and argues that promotion should be based on merit, not racial bias. And in this slide, in the remark, you can see in 2021, studies show that job applicants with names that sound African were 40% less likely to receive callbacks, even with identical qualification. Intersectionality. Black women in public services. Black women face double discrimination, both racial gender bias. They are even less likely than Black men to get leadership positions. They also experience more workplace microaggressions, like being ignored in meetings or judged more harshly for mistakes. For true equality policy must address these overlapping barriers, not just race or gender separately. In this slide, you can see the intersectionality, the Black women in public service, and the concept of intersectionality coined by Kimberly examines how overlapping identities such as race and gender create unique experiences of discrimination. In the context of Black women in Canada, public service, this means they face challenges distinct from those encountered by Black men or white women. Now I pass it over to Karen to discuss the lawsuit current status and our final thought. Thank you.